Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone X was recently re-released in the United States and across the world as a refurbished product. Apple stopped selling it once they introduced the iPhone XS, and now you can pick it up again refurbished at a very similar price to the iPhone XR. So I wanted to help you decide which one would be best for you. So the first thing you need to know is the price. The iPhone X comes in at $769 or $899 with 64 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes of storage, whereas the iPhone XR comes in at $749 up to $899 with either 64, 128, or 256 gigabytes of storage. Now we have a couple different color options. With the iPhone X, you've got space gray or you have silver. And silver is a little bit nicer, I think, in my opinion. It's a little bit more flashy. This one's a little bit more muted. It just depends which one you like, but you have two options, and they're both built out of stainless steel around the outer ring here, and they have a glass back and a glass front. And we'll talk more about the cameras a little bit later on. But just know that you've got these two color options. When it comes to the iPhone XR, you've got a lot more color options. The XR comes in product red like this, or you can get it in multiple different colors such as the space gray color here, silver. You've also got a yellow color, a blue color, and some others as well. And so you can pick any one you'd like, and those seem to be pretty popular as far as people wanting to have those different color availabilities. Now, the obvious difference between the two, other than the cameras, which we'll cover later, is the actual display. On the iPhone XR, we have a 6.1-inch display, and this is a little bit controversial because it's an LCD display that's a little over 720p resolution. However, you cannot see the pixels because it's 326 pixels per inch. So you really can't see them, although some people will complain about this. It's got a resolution of 1792 by 828, and again 326 pixels per inch with a non-HDR display. Now, when we move over to the iPhone X, we've got a 5.8-inch display from corner to corner, and we've got 2436 by 1125 at 458 pixels per inch. So some people have said that you need the higher resolution due to the layout of the pixels on an OLED display to match that of an LCD. Either way, if I put these side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference if I could hide which phone it is, other than for its size. The viewing angles are quite good, but the actual colors are a little richer on the iPhone X, although you shouldn't complain about the iPhone XR. They're quite nice. It's a very nice LCD, but you are going to get better blacks with an OLED display. That's just kind of the nature of those displays. Now, when it comes to the display, of course, this one is HDR, and you can watch up to 1080p on YouTube on both of them. That's a limitation of the YouTube app, and it has to do with some codecs between YouTube and Apple. But right now, YouTube allows you to use 1080p on either display. And again, you're not going to be able to tell the difference so much, except that you can watch HDR content on the OLED display. So that is an availability. I do have an HDR video. If you want to check that out, I'll link it. And it's just my only HDR video, but you can see a better or wider color range on the OLED display than you can on an LCD. So you do get that advantage. The other advantage you get with the 10 is 3D touch. So you can force press here or 3D touch, and you've got a little pop out. You don't get that on the apps here, although you do get it in other areas of the OS. So maybe notifications. So you see there's some notifications on the XR. You can tap on these and kind of haptic touch or press, and it will pop up. Similar to what you would get with 3D touch, but it's very limited throughout the OS, and this has true force touch sensors underneath the display that senses that 3D press. So that should be a little bit of an advantage. I use it a lot. Some people don't use it at all, but that may make a difference to you. Now, we do have dual speakers on both. However, the iPhone XR actually sounds a little bit better. They fixed this with the latest generation. It sounds a little wider, or it sounds more like it's in stereo. You have a little bit louder sound coming out of this speaker as opposed to the bottom speakers. So you do have a little bit better speaker on the XR. When it comes to actual cell phone reception or Wi-Fi, I find the iPhone X seems to do a better job with that. They changed the antenna design on the newer ones, and there's something different about them that makes it not as good. It just doesn't have as strong of a signal normally. However, you can get about the same Wi-Fi speeds, but it just depends on your home network gear. Now, as you'll see, we have Face ID. Face ID is going to be a little bit faster on the newer phone, but it's so close it's hard to say. So let me try that one more time. And you'll see it was a little bit slower on the 10. One more time, I'll show you. And a little bit slower again on the 10. So if that's something that bothers you, of course, it can be a pain. Now, when it comes to battery life between the two, the iPhone 10 has a little bit less battery life than the iPhone XR, about 1 to 2 hours depending on your usage. Now, in some tests you'll see otherwise, but in my usage of using this phone versus this, or even the XS Max, I find the XR actually will beat it out by 30 minutes to an hour, or 1 to 2 hours when we're talking about the iPhone 10. So there is an advantage to the iPhone XR when it comes to battery. Now, when we're talking about the overall cameras, both have pretty good cameras. The forward-facing cameras are very similar. They're the true depth 7 megapixel cameras. So if we tap on these here, spin them around, you'll see I'm recording with a GH5 this time, and they're both forward-facing cameras. They're going to look the same. There's really no difference here. You're going to have great photos or video from the front-facing camera on this. However, the back camera is a little bit different. They are both 12 megapixel cameras, but the iPhone 10 gains a telephoto zoom lens, so you get to zoom optically, whereas you have to zoom digitally on this one. Also, when you're taking portraits with this particular camera, you can only take portraits of people, not objects. So without a special app, you won't be able to do that. With the iPhone 10, you'll be able to take portrait photos of objects. So if I go here, we go to portrait. It's not necessarily looking for a person. It wants me to move further away. It's not necessarily looking for a person. It's looking for an object. So you can take that with this, and that is an advantage. But I wanted to compare both of these and show you the photos between both of them in low light and bright light, and take a look at a few different photos and see what you think between the two of them. Both of these devices have very fast processors. The iPhone X has the A11 Bionic, whereas the iPhone XR has the A12 Bionic. Now, to tell the difference between the two is very hard. Technically, the A12 Bionic is faster, but if you do something simple like open the App Store, you're not really going to be able to tell the difference. We can load a game, and this usually will show us a little bit of a difference. Let me set these down here. Wait for it to load. And you'll see they loaded quickly on both. We'll hit play. We'll hit create new world. So if you play a lot of games, we'll hit create. And if you play a lot of games, you'll see that normally the older device actually loads more quickly. It's hard to say. You'll see it just loaded quicker on this device. And normally I find that's the time for the processor to ramp up to full speed. On the newer devices is slower, but we're talking a second here. So we're not talking huge differences, but there is a difference. Now, the other test I like to run is exporting a 4K video. That really pushes the processor kind of to the max to see what it will do. So I'll open iMovie, set a 4K movie, and then export it, and we'll see which one wins. Now, I've loaded the same movie on both of these. It's something I recorded with the iPhone, and it's on both. You can see it's the same length, and I don't have any other apps open or anything in memory. So what I wanted to do is export this in 4K and see how long it takes. Now I have a stopwatch here, and we'll see what this takes as well to complete this. So we'll hit done. We'll share it here, save video, and this might be a little bit tricky. We'll do this, and we'll see how long it takes. And in my experience, usually the older one will finish 1 or 2 seconds more quickly or faster. You'll see the iPhone's finished at pretty much the same time. Actually, this one was about a half a second slower this time. So that's pretty impressive either way. They're very, very close, and that's just to show you that even though this has the faster processor in it, they're basically the same when it comes to doing very heavy tasks. And as far as exporting that video, they haven't really warmed up at all just by exporting video, and so they're staying nice and cool with no problems there. Now, the other thing is both of these have IP67 certification, so they'll withstand a drop in a puddle, but again, with any iPhone, you don't want to swim with them without putting a waterproof case on it, as Apple does not cover any water damage whatsoever. And then the weight between the two of them, the iPhone X is technically a little bit lighter at 6.14 ounces. This is 6.84 ounces with the iPhone XR. Everything else, as far as the operating system, is basically the same. Now, finally, the one thing you may want to consider is an OLED display is always flickering. That's how it manages brightness. You can't see it with your eyes, but it can affect you. It affects about 1 in 10 people and affects me, actually. So looking at an OLED display for any period of time can result in headaches or feeling nauseated. This happens to quite a few people that I know, and it's about 1 in 10 that are affected. So just keep that in mind. If you're sensitive to light, that may be a consideration for you. So that's really it between the 10 and the XR. They're both equally priced, so whichever one works best for you would be the one to get. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments below, which one you like, the size between the two, the screens, and everything else. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.